Hi, this is Mike Henriksen here at WARE 2012 with Toby Joe Boudreaux from the Control Group. Toby, how you doing?
Good.
Good. So how's the conference been for you?
It's been great. I've had a lot to do being in this room and setting things up and explaining to people what we're doing. And being on stage was just a few minutes, but very gratifying.
So what the Mac, I guess that's WTM.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
We have an R&D program in our shop that everyone takes part of. We fund it pretty well internally, and we like to kind of look around and find surplus information that's floating around and try and find cool uses or goofy uses for that stuff. Sometimes we can apply that to client projects, and other times we can bring it to open source. And we all knew that that wireless routers, because we have a lot of like Cisco engineers, and we knew that wireless routers are constantly seeing people's MAC addresses, and we wanted to use those as cookies to identify people and start doing things like saying hi when you come into the office or telling you how many times you've been to the bathroom and other draconian things. So people should work for us. It's a lot of fun. And right around the time that we started doing contextual information display and filed a provisional patent for that, some startups started coming out doing similar stuff. So it's actually a somewhat extant industry now, as in the past year or so.
It's like check-ins without having to check in.
Yeah. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with meshes of these sensors. You can start to triangulate people and trilateralize people. And there are some bigger companies who are doing this, but it's not really something the average independent hacker can get involved in terribly easily. So what the Mac was our R&D group, which is comprised of all sorts of disciplines, trying to like democratize that and lower the barrier to entry. Second to that, we're collecting a boatload of data here. We're doing about 2 to 3 million pings per hour while here. So it's not huge, but it's meaningful data, and people can start writing MapReduce and PIG functions against it and doing pattern analysis and helping us tune the positional stuff, because there's some math in there that we could sometimes use help with.
Yeah, I could see this being really useful in like cities that are all wireless and airports and things like that, where you can start to see the path and traffic.
Yeah, not only that, we're getting pretty close to having a releasable open source project around turning Android devices into roaming harvesters without taking away your ability to use your phone, which is the big challenging part. So people can walk around with these devices, and it harvests information, writes it all down to disk locally, and then with lat long stamps, and it can say, I was at this intersection in Lower Manhattan, and here were all the MAC addresses around me at this time. And so we don't have to get buy-in from people in their apartments necessarily to set up their routers this way, or businesses. We can just have people roam the streets.
Interesting. No buy-in on that. Is that something you're going to consider in the future as like an opt-in, or?
Well, there's no way. I mean, this is we don't control this protocol. This is part of how wireless works. We're just taking advantage of it and bringing awareness to it. Not so much as hacktivists, because we're ambivalent. The uses could go either way, and right now there are some questionable uses that are certainly happening, and we're just trying to give people the opportunity to commoditize it for good as well, and then to look at some of the data collected and find good uses for that stuff. What you can do, and what we're doing here, is anonymizing the MAC addresses themselves, even though it's completely pointless to do, because every router around you is seeing it no matter what. But we're doing it just as at O'Reilly's request in part, and it's right before we release the data, we're going to scrub everyone who wanted to opt out. So far, we've gotten 0 people who want to opt out. I think everyone gets it, and the people who didn't have talked to us and understand what's going on. But the only thing people can really do is turn off their wireless cards, and you're not going to find many iPhone users who are willing to turn off their wireless cards.
So I guess as an industry, you're going to have 2 options. You're either going to do it for the good, or some people might be doing it for other reasons, and that's going to be how you distinguish yourself.
Yeah, I guess so. There's probably a lot of gray in the middle there. So if we are successfully able to mobilize a force of open source folks and sort of open source harvesters, people who are not necessarily programming but running these, and we're routing all of that data up to a giant communal bucket, it's just a huge database, and good, evil, gray, it's going to go all over the place, I'm sure. But the data's floating in the air. We're just trying to capture it and make sense of it.
Toby, thank you very much. It's been great talking with you. Thanks.